She stared right at me and said I couldn't come for Christmas. To the house I secretly bought for them. So I smiled real big. I didn't fight or cry or ask questions. I just put on my coat and walked out into the snow. 3 days later, while they were still eating cookies and taking pretty pictures, their house payment stopped. Just like that. Like the snow melting on their doorstep. They never knew the money came from me. They never even asked. But they were about to learn what happens when you forget who really takes care of you. Before I tell you what happened next, I want to say thank you for being here with me today. That means everything to an old lady like me. If you're watching this right now, if you stopped what you were doing to listen to my story, you are special. Tell me in the comments. Where are you right now? Are you in your kitchen making dinner? Maybe you're in bed thinking about people who used to love you but don't anymore? Have you ever been pushed away by people you helped? Have you ever been told you don't belong somewhere you helped build? If you have, then you're my family now. I learned something really important. Sometimes people hurt you in tiny ways. They don't call you back. They don't invite you to parties. They smile but their eyes look cold. It's like getting little cuts that nobody can see but they still hurt so much. If you want to share your story, put it in the comments below. Or if it's too sad to share with everyone, send it to my email. This place is for people like us. People who gave everything and then took it back when nobody said thank you. Now let me tell you how this all started. My name is Margaret. I'm 67 years old and my husband died a long time ago. I live in a small town near Nashville. Nothing fancy, just a regular house where I worked hard and prayed every day. I raised my boy Daniel all by myself after his daddy got sick with cancer. Daniel was only 7 when his daddy went to heaven. From that day on, it was just me and him against the whole world. I cleaned other people's houses and worked at the grocery store at night. I even fixed people's clothes to make extra money. We ate peanut butter sandwiches almost every day, but Daniel never complained. He was such a good boy. He saw how tired I was after work. Every night when I tucked him in, he would hug me tight and say, "Mama, when I grow up, I'm gonna take care of you." And I believed him with my whole heart. Daniel grew up to be a wonderful man. He was kind and polite and worked really hard in school. He got a scholarship and went to college. Then he got a good job with money and numbers. I was so proud of him I could burst. He met a girl named Melissa. She was smart and pretty and always dressed up nice. She made me feel like my hands were too rough and my clothes weren't good enough. She was polite to me, but it felt cold. Like when someone says your food is good but doesn't eat it. I could tell she didn't want me around. She didn't hate me, but she wanted Daniel's new life without the old parts. When they got married, I wanted to give them something big. Something that would help them forever. Daniel never asked me for help, but I knew they couldn't afford a house. So I took the money his daddy left me. Money I saved for years and years. I called the bank and paid for their house. I set it up so they would never have to worry about money. But I never told them it was me. I didn't want them to feel bad. I just wanted them to be happy and safe. But somewhere along the way they stopped being grateful. They started acting like they deserved everything without saying thank you. That house I helped them buy. It stopped feeling like a place where I belonged. Listen carefully. I didn't just give them money. I gave them a start in life. And they turned it into a place where they could shut me out. But it didn't happen all at once. Bad things creep up on you slow, like when cold air sneaks under your door. It started last Christmas. Let me tell you about Christmas in our family. It used to be magical. Even when we were poor, I made our house smell like cookies and cinnamon. I baked everything from scratch and put up lights from the dollar store. I played the same Christmas songs over and over. When Daniel was little, we made paper snowflakes and hung them everywhere. Even when Daniel got older and busy, he never missed Christmas at Mama's house. After he married Melissa, we started going to their house instead. I brought the ham and presents for my grandbabies. I brought that special angel we always put on top of the tree. Every year, I'd show up in my red sweater with homemade pie. Daniel would smile so big when he saw me. I'd sit with the little ones and watch them open toys while Melissa drank wine and looked bored. But we were together. That's what mattered most. But last year felt different. December came and it was cold and dark. All the stores had pretty lights and Christmas trees everywhere. But my phone stayed quiet. Nobody called me. No texts about baking cookies together. No questions about what time I was coming over. Just nothing. I waited and waited. December 20th came and went. December 22nd too. Still nothing. So I called Daniel myself. He answered, but his voice sounded weird. Like he was in a hurry to get off the phone. He said they were still making plans. He said maybe Melissa's family was doing something. He said they would let me know. Let me know. That's not how we did things. I was the one who made Christmas happen. I was Christmas in that family. Then on December 23rd I got a text. Not from Daniel. From Melissa. She said, "Hey, we're doing something small this year. Just immediate family." Immediate family. Those words hit me like a slap in the face. I read them once. Then again. Then I said them out loud to myself. Just immediate family. I was standing in my kitchen. The pie I was making was still sitting there. My apron was covered in flour. The presents I wrapped for the kids were by the door. That's when it hit me like a truck. I wasn't immediate family anymore. I wasn't the grandma who made Christmas special. I wasn't the mama who kept them safe. I was just extra. Someone they put up with because they had to. Until they decided they didn't have to anymore. I tried to tell myself maybe they made a mistake. Maybe they would change their minds. Maybe there was still time. So on Christmas Eve I put on my coat and went for a walk. I wasn't going to show up where I wasn't wanted. I just needed fresh air. I needed to walk and think. Their house was only 5 blocks away. I had walked there hundreds of times. For birthday parties and babysitting and surprise visits. I knew every crack in the sidewalk. But that night nothing felt the same. When I got close to their house, I saw it all lit up like a Christmas card. Lights on every window. The pretty wreath I bought them was hanging on the door. And through the big windows I could see people inside. Not just Daniel and Melissa. There were lots of guests. People laughing and holding wine glasses. Christmas music playing. Something that smelled like turkey was cooking. A big Christmas party. The kind I used to have at my house before they got a house big enough to replace me. And there I was, standing on the sidewalk in the cold, watching a party I wasn't even invited to. That's when Mrs. Dunlap from across the street came out to take her trash to the curb. She saw me and waved. Then she said like it was no big deal. "Big party tonight. Melissa told me they were keeping it small this year. Said your presence makes things uncomfortable." She wasn't trying to be mean. She was just telling me what she heard. But it felt like ice water poured all over me. Uncomfortable. Too much. Not good enough for the new family. I walked away before she could say more. I didn't trust myself to speak or to keep from crying. They had a Christmas party in the house I secretly paid for. They ate at the table I helped buy. They used the dishes I helped pick out. They laughed under lights I helped hang. And I wasn't worth a phone call. They said I didn't belong in their holiday. In their home. In their perfect new life. But they forgot something important. You can't throw away your roots just because you don't like how they look. They called me uncomfortable. I call it having a good memory. And I remembered everything. But I didn't call them. I didn't knock on their door. I didn't send angry texts. Because I learned something over the years. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stay quiet. I walked home slowly that night. The air was so cold it hurt to breathe. My street wasn't as bright as theirs. No music, no guests, just me and the quiet. I went inside and made hot chocolate. I sat in my chair by the window, looking at my little tree. No ornaments from the grandkids. No cards they made at school. Just a simple angel on top and white lights blinking like a heartbeat. I stared at that tree for a long time. And I had to choose. I could cry, or I could remember that quiet people can be the strongest of all. I put down my cup and stood up. My knees hurt. I'm not young anymore. I walked to the back room where I keep all my important papers. The ones nobody thinks I'm smart enough to understand. But I know where every paper is. I opened the folder marked Daniel and Melissa house papers. I pulled out the trust papers, the bank statements, the account numbers, the payment schedules. Everything neat and organized. Proof of all the money I'd been quietly sending. They thought that house was theirs. They didn't know I was the one paying for it from a secret account. Daniel didn't even know the account existed. I set it up years ago because I was scared the world would be too hard for them. But now it was time to let them learn to walk without my help. I picked up the phone and called the bank. A nice young lady answered. She was probably someone's daughter, just like I used to be. I gave her my account number and proved who I was. Then I said it calm and clear, like I was reading a grocery list. I want to stop all house payments from account 2742. Right now. Not for a little while. Forever. She asked if I needed to give a reason. I said, no reason needed. It's just time for things to stand on their own. And that was it. Blick. I went back to my chair and picked up my hot chocolate. It was cold now, but somehow it still tasted like peace. As I sat there in my quiet room, I remembered everything. Every choice I made because I loved them. Every dollar I spent that they never knew about. When Daniel and Melissa got married, they were broke. Melissa had just finished school. Daniel had a job but not enough money to buy a house and start a family. I remember when he called me. His voice was sad and proud at the same time. He said, "We want to buy a house, but we can't afford it." I told him not to worry. I said his daddy left some money and it was time to use it. But I didn't tell him I was also using my money. The money I saved from sewing and working nights at the store. Money I saved for emergencies that never came. Till now. The house was bought in their names. I wanted it that way. I didn't want to own it. I just wanted my son to stand proud in front of his own front door. But behind the scenes, I made sure they wouldn't fall down. I opened a special account with my name on it. Every month, the house payment came out of my account. It wasn't loud or showy. Just happened month after month, year after year. I didn't want them to know because I wanted them to feel strong and capable. I didn't want Melissa to be mad at me. I didn't want Daniel to feel like a little boy who needed his mama. So I kept it secret. Year after year, I watched them live their life. They fixed up the kitchen and painted the baby's room. They had parties and posted pictures online. I never said a word. I never reminded them that the ground under their feet was held up by the woman they were trying to erase. But Christmas changed me. Not because they forgot me. It was how easy it was to forget me. Like I was nothing. That's when I knew something. If I wasn't family enough to sit at their table, then I wasn't important enough to hold up their house. So I moved the money. Not to hurt them. Not to be mean. To make things clear. I took the money that was going to their house and put it in my savings account. The same account I used to save for Daniel's birthday presents when he was 5. The same one I used for bus fare to work. That money never belonged to them. It was just borrowed by love. And love had decided to take it back. I spent New Year's Eve alone, but I wasn't lonely. I made myself a small dinner. Black-eyed peas for good luck, cornbread, and just a little bit of sparkling juice. The TV was on low, counting down to midnight. And in that soft light, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. No fake smiles. No being made to feel like I was in the way. Just me in my home with my memories and my strength. But by January 2nd, the peace had company. The phone rang just before lunch. Daniel's name showed up on the screen. I let it ring once, twice, then answered. His voice was tight and scared. "Mom," he said, "did you do something to the mortgage?" No hello. No how are you? Just straight to the thing that made me real to him again. I didn't say anything at first. I let him sit in the quiet he left me in during Christmas. Then I spoke soft and steady. "I thought you said I wasn't immediate family." Silence. The kind where the truth starts to hurt. I could hear him breathing like he was about to make excuses. Maybe blame Melissa. Maybe blame Christmas stress. But I didn't let him. I figured if I wasn't immediate family, I shouldn't mess with your money either. His voice got smaller. "Mom, the bank sent us a scary letter. They say we're behind on payments. We might lose the house. How is that even possible?" I took another sip of tea. Kept my voice calm. No anger. No tears. Well, I said, I guess that's what happens when invisible money stops showing up. It's hard to keep track of something when you never knew it was there. He got quiet again. I could almost hear him thinking about all the years, all the dinners, all the times they fixed up the house, all the comfort they lived with without knowing who paid for it. Why didn't you tell me? He asked. His voice was small now. Not demanding. Just confused. I answered honestly. Because I wanted you to feel proud and strong. I wanted Melissa to feel like she built something real with you. I didn't want to be the string attached to your success. But being proud without being grateful is just noise. And I got tired of the noise. He tried to talk again. Mom, we can fix this. Maybe you can help us figure this out. I stopped him gently. I didn't call the bank to destroy you, Daniel. I called them to remind myself that I still have power. That I wasn't just the old lady who brought pies and got left off the guest list. I was the one holding up the house you built your life in. He was quiet. I could feel the heavy truth landing on him. I ended the call the same way I ended the year. Calm and unshaken. Take care of your family, I said. It's time you learned how to stand on your own 2 feet. And I hung up. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was waiting for their approval. I didn't feel like someone hoping to be remembered. I felt like a woman who had finally remembered her own worth. But on their side of town, the panic was just starting. I don't know what Daniel and Melissa said to each other after my call. I don't know if they yelled or sat in cold silence. But I know what happened next. They went to see a lawyer. They needed answers fast. The foreclosure notice wasn't just a warning. It was a wake-up call. It said in black and white what they had ignored for years. Someone else had been holding them up, and now that someone had let go, here's what they found out. And this is the part they never bothered to understand when everything was easy. Yes, their names were on the house deed. That was my gift to them. But the mortgage payments, the foundation of everything, that was all me. The trust one set up years ago was a secret helper. My name wasn't on the house, but my money was in every brick, every beam, every monthly payment. The trust was legally connected to their loan. When I stopped the automatic payments, everything stopped cold. The lawyer was a young man, probably Daniel's age when I first set up the trust. He told them exactly what they didn't want to hear. Mrs. Margaret's trust account was paying this mortgage. It doesn't matter that her name isn't on the title. She was financially responsible by choice. And you were responsible by default. Now that she's withdrawn support, all the liability falls on the named homeowners. That's you. I can only imagine Melissa's face in that moment. Maybe shocked, maybe confused, maybe angry. But what she felt didn't matter as much as what she had to face. The house wasn't theirs the way they thought. It was borrowed comfort, borrowed security, borrowed peace. And I had called it all back. Every quiet cent of it. They decorated that house for Instagram photos, but they forgot the real foundation was behind the camera. It wasn't the pretty kitchen or the fancy light above the dining table. It was me. The woman in the background with flour on her apron and receipts in her filing cabinet. And I had just reminded them what happens when you build a home on love and then act like that love doesn't belong in the picture. When people lose something they took for granted, they don't say sorry first. They come fighting. It was January 4th. I had just finished folding clothes and was making tea when I heard the knock. Not a gentle knock. A sharp, angry knock like someone wasn't asking to come in. They were demanding it. I opened the door and there she was. Melissa. Hair pulled back tight, jaw clenched, coat half-zipped like she had rushed over in a fury. Not panic. Fury. She didn't wait for me to invite her in. She stepped right into my house like her name was on my deed. She pointed her finger at me like I was the child. You're ruining our lives, she snapped. I didn't flinch. She looked around my living room like it was beneath her, like my doilies and family photos were junk. You're punishing us because we didn't invite you for Christmas. Her voice was loud and sharp and mean. I didn't get loud back. I never do. Instead, I sat down in my chair, the same one I rocked Daniel in when he was sick as a baby. I folded my hands in my lap. Then I said with the kind of calm that makes people nervous, "No, dear. You removed me from your life. I'm just respecting your decision." She stared at me like I was speaking a different language. She didn't expect calm. She wanted a fight, something to yell about, something to blame. But all I gave her was quiet and truth. "I didn't scream when you left me out of your family pictures," I continued. "I didn't cause a scene when you said I didn't belong at your holiday table. I just listened and adjusted accordingly." Her mouth opened to say something, but she didn't have words ready. Because what do you say when the person you tried to make small turns out to be holding up the floor you're standing on? "The payments are gone," she said, trying to sound tough, but her voice cracked. "We can't afford this house without those payments. We have children. Do you want us to lose everything?" I tilted my head just a little. "You seemed to be managing just fine without me last month," I said gently. "Decorating, hosting parties, laughing with friends. You didn't need me then. I assume you'll figure it out now." The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. But I let it hang there. I let her feel the weight of her choices, the cold echo of being left out. Then, as she turned to leave, probably hoping I would beg her to stay, I stood up and walked her to the door. As she stepped onto my porch, I looked her right in the eye and said, "Good luck with next month's house payment. And the one after that. And the one after that." Then I closed the door quietly but firmly. I went back to my tea, still warm just the way I like it. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was standing outside of something I built. I wasn't chasing after invitations or hoping for scraps of love disguised as tradition. I was home. My home. My little house isn't fancy. 2 bedrooms, floors that creak, and wallpaper that's seen more seasons than I can count. But it's mine. And more than that, it's peaceful. Outside my back window, my garden was sleeping under winter frost. The rose bush I planted after my husband died still stood tall by the fence. I call it Eleanor's Grace. She blooms bright red every spring like she remembers why I named her after strength. I sat by the window and watched the birds eat the seeds I left for them. Blue jays, cardinals, and the occasional squirrel trying to steal some. No noise. No cold smiles. No room full of people pretending I didn't matter. Just the sound of wind, the creak of the heater, and the photo of my husband on the bookshelf. He's smiling like he knows I'm going to be just fine. His eyes always reminded me who I am. Not what they said I was. Not what they decided I no longer fit into. Who I am. There were no gifts under my tree that year. No grandbabies pulling at my sleeves. No second slice of pie served out of duty. But there was peace. The kind that comes after a storm you didn't cause but refused to drown in. I didn't need anyone to clap for me. I didn't need the world to know what I'd done. The only person I needed to prove anything to was already proud of me. I smiled at that thought and let it settle deep in my heart. Because the truth is, they celebrated without me. But I survived without them. Weeks passed. January melted into February. The frost began to let go of the ground outside. And the days got a little longer. Life moved forward like it always does. I went about my routine. Tea at sunrise. Taking care of my plants even though the ground was still hard. Reading books by the window. I didn't talk about what happened. I didn't tell my friends or mention it at church. Some things don't need to be gossiped about. Some things just settle in the quiet where they belong. Then one afternoon, just as the sun was starting to set behind the big oak tree in my yard, there was a knock at my door. But not like Melissa's angry knock. This one was soft and unsure. I opened the door slowly and saw Daniel standing there. Alone. No coat, no wife, no attitude. Just a man who looked more like the boy I raised than the man I'd watched drift away. He didn't speak at first. He just looked at me like he'd forgotten what home felt like. His eyes were red and tired. Then finally his voice cracked. "I didn't know," he said. "Mom, I didn't know you were paying for everything. I didn't know she said those mean things about you." I didn't cry. Not right away. I stepped aside and let him in. He sat on the edge of the couch like he wasn't sure if he deserved to be there. I made us tea out of habit, not because I felt sorry for him. I sat across from him. No words filled the space between us, just 2 cups steaming. Then I said calmly, "You didn't ask." He blinked. "What?" I said it slower this time. "You didn't ask, Daniel. You never once asked how the bills got paid. You never wondered how your mother, the woman who worked 2 jobs to buy you school shoes, could suddenly afford to stay quiet for years while you lived comfortable." He looked down at his hands. "That," I continued, "was the real betrayal. Not Melissa. Not Christmas. Not the party. It was that you never wondered if I was still standing behind you, holding everything up. You never looked back to check." He tried to apologize. He said all the words he thought I needed to hear. He said he'd fix it, he'd talk to her, he didn't mean to hurt me. He thought I'd always be around, he thought I'd understand. I listened, but I didn't rush to forgive him. Because sometimes forgiveness is a process, not a performance. Sometimes the door opens, but the healing stays behind it, taking its sweet time. I told him I appreciated his honesty. I told him he could come by again when he was ready to talk like a son, not a man trying to patch a sinking ship. He asked if Melissa could come next time. I looked him straight in the eye and said, "Let's start with just you." He nodded slowly and stood up. He looked around the room like it felt smaller than he remembered. As he got to the door, he turned and said, "You were always the strongest one, weren't you?" I didn't answer. He already knew. When the door closed behind him, I sat in that same chair looking out at my garden. Nothing was fixed. Nothing was final. But something had shifted. Not in him. Me. You know, sometimes people think that if you don't fight back loud enough, you must be okay with how they treat you. That if you stay quiet, you must be weak. That if you don't make a scene, then it didn't really hurt. But let me tell you something I've learned through time and tears. Sometimes family forgets who bled for their comfort. They forget who stayed up all night when they were sick. Who worked 2 jobs to keep the lights on. Who gave up new shoes so they could go on field trips. They forget who paid the down payment when they were broke. And who kept paying the bills long after they stopped saying thank you. When people forget, they start to rewrite the story without you in it. But I didn't tear down their house. I just stopped holding it up. I wasn't trying to hurt them. I just stopped helping where I wasn't seen or appreciated. I didn't scream. I didn't post on social media. I didn't show up uninvited to make a scene. I sat in my home with my dignity, my peace, and my memory intact. And I remembered that the only person who needed to value me was already looking back at me in the mirror. So if they ever uninvite you from their holidays, their celebrations, their lives, don't beg to come back. Just remind them whose hands built the table they're now eating at. And then go make yourself a plate. One filled with peace, with truth, with quiet dignity. The kind that doesn't need applause to stand tall. If you've ever been cast aside, betrayed, or forgotten by the very people you gave everything to, I want you to know something important. You're not alone. You have a family here with me. This is Granny's voice, where being quiet isn't weakness. It's justice. Drop your story in the comments below, or send it to my email if it's too personal for everyone to read. Your story matters. Your truth matters. And this space was built for people like you. So go ahead and subscribe because we have more stories to tell and we're just getting started. Thank you for watching and remember, Granny loves you.